Well, welcome everyone. We have a real treat for us today, a Hammered Dulcimer workshop, an intro to Hammered Dulcimer from Scott Reeder, who is the co-founder of the New Mexico Dulcimer Festival, which is a wonderful festival here in town, usually live. Um, and I believe when Scott and Irma founded this festival, it was, if I remember correctly, Scott, one of only 6 Dulcimer festivals in the western United States. Is that correct? I got a thumbs up. Let's unmute our presenter.
Now
And
I can unmute. That's
there we
great.
go. I'm also going to post a link in our chat to everyone here. Scott has a handout. You can also find it on our website under his workshop, but the link is right there in our chat, so everyone can get to it and hopefully have a great time. Let's get going. Without further ado, here's Scott Reeder.
Okay, thank you, Louis. So if you have any questions, you're all going to be muted, and I'm going to try to quit 5 minutes early, and at that time I'll take questions. Hopefully by that time I would have answered most of the things that you would have come up with. I first heard the hammer dulcimers for about a decade on Celtic cassette tapes, and I had no idea what the instrument was. And it wasn't until the music duet Wilson and McKee came through Albuquerque and did a concert that I saw how cool it was to play. And so that's when I became interested in the instrument. And so in this workshop, I'm going to provide some demonstrations, some explanations of the Western hammer dulcimer. And every culture has something that you beat with sticks, but all the notes are laid out. They may have different bridges. And for the Western hammer dulcimer, it has a treble bridge and a bass bridge. And the reason it's called a hammered dulcimer is I play it with little wood hammers. And on the bass bridge, this right side, I can't play it, it's not tuned notes. But my bass bridge is tuned. So I just play on the left side of the bass bridge. The treble bridge, I've got a string length on either side that crosses the bridge and a way of tuning those strings independently. So I play both sides and they're tuned in fifths. The modern piano was invented around 1700 based off of the hammer dulcimer. And we have records going back to 1717 of sightings of the hammer dulcimer in America, in early America. The bridges, you're just going to see all of these strings. And when I play, I don't look at the strings because it's a mess. I look at the bridges. But this bass string, again, this section is not struck and played, but the bass string from the bridge all the way to the other side of the instrument, I have that long length, and that string actually runs through a hole in the treble bridge so that I have the full length all the way down. On the treble bridge, my notes on the left have this length, and on the right, they go all the way to the edge of the soundboard running through holes in the bass bridge. And so I'm going to show that in a lot more detail, but let's hear what it sounds like. So that's a hammer dulcimer. Zoom's not doing us justice. You can certainly go to YouTube and find some good examples. So to get started, let me go ahead and show you some resources. I'm going to go to the, can the host enable screen sharing for me? I have some slides, and I wanted to pull up the Albuquerque Folk Festival Bill, are you listening? Can you enable screen sharing for me?
Hi, Scott. I'm looking for that button right now,
Okay.
and it says, "Oh
Bill, I
my!"
think you need to make him a co-host.
I think that's right. That was the thing. So we're gonna make Scott a co-host. Thank you for reminding me. And now
I'll put up my special sign for this.
you should have. Do you now have permissions?
So one of the things that people kind of get confused about is, see if I can get to the screen here. Yeah, looks like I'm not getting to annotations. But here on the upper left, you're going to see my wife holding a mountain dulcimer. Hourglass shape, often it's called a lap dulcimer because it's played like a slide guitar on your lap. Totally different instrument, same name. And on the right, a hammer dulcimer, which is the subject of this presentation. So let me go here to another screen share. Give me just a second. So if you go to the Folk Festival website, can everybody see that? And go down to workshops. I'm going to slide down to workshop 2. And I am not sure how to get to the annotations, so I'll be a little bit challenged. But next to the hammer dulcimer, you see my name. That's a link to our website. And on our website, you can find a lot of resources about dulcimers, how I found them. On the links page, we've got lots of links to popular sites. We go back to the Albuquerque Folk Fest on the handout that's there by the description.
The link to that handout is also in the group chat here for the Zoom.
Okay. So I give a little bit more history, the different countries that have them, what they're called, different types of Western hammer dulcimers, which I'm describing today. Resources, where you can buy them in New Mexico, nearby dulcimer festivals that you can drive to. At the New Mexico Dulcimer Festival held every October, we have about 50 workshops. A whole mess on the mountain dulcimer, a whole mess on the hammer dulcimer, as well as other things, penny whistle and bodhrán and banjo and guitar and fiddle and palliative music and quite a number of things. And so you can get to my contact info that way as well. So let me tell you how we find the notes. The first thing ever happened when somebody comes up and says, "How on earth do you know where you are?" Well, it's awfully confusing looking at the strings. I don't look at the strings, I look at the bridges. And if you look at the bridge, you're going to see some white marks on both bridges. And what you have is a simple pattern. You have a white mark on this course, 2 unmarked bridges, and then another marked bridge. And that same pattern repeats, 2 unmarked, marked. With this particular dulcimer, I have 2 strings per course. So if I take this one note, I have 2 strings that are tuned alike all throughout it. That's a pretty contemporary thing, trying to get the weight down. A lot of the older dulcimers, as well as from some builders today, they may have 3 strings, 4 strings per course. Maybe they want to make the treble strings louder relative to the overall volume, make some of the bass strings louder. So every builder does what he wants to do. I'm going to go back to the share and show you how these notes are laid out and also some pictures of other types of dulcimers. So this is a small student model. Okay, I see Ken is raising his hand, but I don't have a way of unmuting. So hopefully I will get to these questions at the end when we can get everybody unmuted. I'm still not able to see how I get to the annotation, so I'm just going to have to talk to this. You see that that particular model of dulcimer is called a 1211. What that means is that there's 12 string courses on the treble bridge and 11 string courses on the bass bridge. And so by any builder, a 1211 is going to have more or less the same notes, the same tuning. So I go up from there to the next size. I wouldn't ever recommend buying a 1211 because after about 3 months of playing, you're going to outgrow that size. So we get to a 1615, 16 courses on the treble bridge, 15 on the bass bridge. That's a much more usable size. When we go from the bottommost note over on the bass bridge, my highest note is on the far upper left side of the instrument. So it kind of flows from the bottom right to the upper left. And this particular 1615 doesn't have all of the notes. There's a few notes missing like you would have on a piano. And so sometimes builders will offer a chromatic model where they add a few bridges that give you the high and the low missing notes. Some people don't ever need that, others it's kind of useful to have. The 1211 is actually a subset of the 1615. If I overlaid those pictures, you would see that the 1615 just has 4 more courses of string at the bottom. If I were to go to the next size of dulcimer, it would look like this monstrosity, where I have 2 more sets of strings than the 1211 at the bottom, 1 more set of strings below the 1615. This dulcimer you'll also see, besides the standard treble and bass bridge, there's another little bridge at the upper top and another big bridge at the bottom right. That bottom right bridge actually gives you a full octave lower without making the instrument longer. That upper left bridge gives you some of the missing notes plus some notes above the treble bridge. Most builders give you starting kits at around $800 to $1,000. Usually they'll give you a 1211 at that price range. However, some builders will give you a 1514 or a 1615 with a laminate top, which is less expensive for them to produce than a solid top in that same price range. So how on earth do we know where we are on the instrument? Here's a depiction of the treble and the bass bridge. I've made them parallel where they're actually tilted on the real instrument, and I left out all of the strings crossing either side because that's confusing. So as a player, that's what I look at, is I just look at the bridges. I showed you before that I play on both sides of the treble bridge, and I play only on the left side of the bass bridge. And I mentioned that I have all of these white marks all over the dulcimer. Other builders may use some kind of contrasting color, it's not necessarily white, but it's because of the marked bridge that we can find the note layout. I mentioned that the strings from one bridge run through holes in the other. There's a good picture of that in a little side view diagram I made showing where you play the bass bridge and the 2 places that you play the treble bridge. And it's kind of on top where the other strings are, so they're out of the way when you actually play. So I'm back to my diagram. How on earth do I find where I'm playing? Here I've added the notation along the bass bridge of the notes. You'll see I've called out a marked bridge called middle C. That's the fourth C from the bottom on a piano. And as I move up, all of that octave have a subscript of 4. When I go all the way to the top of that bridge, you'll see C5, D5. All of the next octave I would label with a 5. If I go back down to my middle C going below, that next octave down have a subscript of 3. So that's how the nomenclature works. But if you look from that low D3 all the way up to that top of that D5, I know at this point it still seems arbitrary. You've got kind of a funky F sharp in there and a B flat. Everything else is natural, and it doesn't make sense yet. So that's going to take me just a minute to get to. But if I take this sequence of notes and I raise them up an octave, and I'm going to slide them to the left and up one marked bridge, and that's the notes of the right side of the treble bridge. Same kind of note pattern. At this point I know it doesn't quite make sense. And I'm going to do the same side for my other playing area on the left side of the treble bridge. I move to the left one bridge and up one mark, and I've got those notes for the leftmost treble bridge. And then I fill in the notes. So at this time we can see where the notes are, but how on earth does one remember that? Well, it's actually laid out in diatonic keys. So my D box, I start at my bottom note on the bass bridge, and I play up 4 notes. I shift to the right side of the treble bridge to that bridge and finish the scale. If I want the next octave, do you see the upper left corner of that blue box is labeled D4? Well, if I start the very same pattern on that D4, and so I'm going to play the same pattern, play up 4 notes, shift a bridge. So that's how I get the 2 octaves. If you look above that leftmost square blue box, I can continue to play the D scale up, but a regular dulcimer has a C there instead of a C sharp. If you want to play in the key of D, you'd have to retune that C to a C sharp, or you get a chromatic bridge, which I have on my instrument. So that's why the chromatic bridges are useful. Now I'm going to go back down to the bass bridge. You see the D, E, F, G at the bottom. From that G3, that starts my G box. Same thing like we did before. I can get my 2 octaves. And from that leftmost red box, I can continue up and get some of the rest of the scale. Likewise, down at my G on the bass bridge, I can get some notes going lower. It's just that they don't start on the tonic. Now I'm going to go back to my bass bridge, and you see that C4, middle C. Same kind of pattern that I had before. I play it 4 notes, cross a bridge, play it 4. Start on that higher one, play it 4 notes, cross a bridge. And like the other keys, I have a few notes outside of the green box that I can grab some more notes of the C scale. You see down at the bottom left, I have that white area that's not labeled yet. Well, there's my F box. And I have some of those notes. I don't have as many notes for the flat keys. The A box, where I have that purple at the lower left, I can continue to play up the A scale on the left side of the treble bridge. But for a standard dulcimer, I need a G sharp. I actually have that on an extra bridge, and I can also get some notes below that A. So that's how the notes work. I'm going to repeat that where you can see. I'm going to come to my lowest box and play my D scale. My next octave, my next octave, oops, well, I paid to get that note. See that tiny little bridge there? And all the other scales work the same. Throughout the instrument, it's always the same pattern, which means you can learn a song in one key, and within the limited sharp keys primarily that are on the hammer dulcimer, it's really easy to transpose. So how do you use these scales to actually play a tune? If I go to my treble bridge G box, I could play all the notes are laid out where I have the right sharps for whatever key I'm playing with, and I don't have any strings in between. Another song. So we have a basic idea. It obviously takes time to learn, but I can just look at this. Some people will use cheat streaks and put them under the bridges to see the notes. Unfortunately, if your son has sunlight on it, those can turn what's underneath those cheat strips a different color in your nice expensive dulcimer. And so I like to get people away from those pretty fast. I know where my middle C is, and from there I can find everything else. Okay, so minor scales. How are minor scales laid out? Some of you that actually know music know about relative minors. So if I come over to my C middle C, and I'm going to go down to the A, my relative minor. Minor scale is you play up and down the same side of the bridge without shifting bridges all the way up and down. Go to a different place on the instrument, 2 courses below a marked bridge. So if you're even just watching a dulcimer and don't know much, but if you're up close, you can tell if it's a major or minor key, not just by your ear, but because if the player is staying just on one side of the bridge for the tune. Here's a quick example. So we have major and minor keys within a limited number of keys. I would have to retune every string if I wanted to play in the key of C sharp or E flat or something like that. Like fiddles and harps and other things, hammered dulcimer folk instruments primarily play in major keys. So I grew up playing piano and organ. I have 10 fingers that I can play with, and now I'm constrained to only 2 fingers or 2 hammers. What do you do about it? Obviously, I can play harmony notes, but I can also play arpeggiated chords. And I can also work in arpeggiated chords into songs. So you get the idea on that. And so I can also play chords with my right hand and the melody on the left, and we're going to finish up with this. So that's how we work in the melodies and all. Is the host able to open up, unmute everybody?
I believe we are. Let's see if I can do it. Bill, do you think this is a wise idea?
It's
I can allow them to unmute themselves. I can't unmute everybody. That's one of our
I think
limitations.
I can.
Can you? Oh, that's right.
Because I'm very special.
You got the magical. Yeah.
I'm able to unmute myself.
Excellent.
Just hit the
So-
shift key.
Great. So do we have any questions from people?
Not shift key, spacebar.
Scott, you are, it sounds like currently muted. I'm not hearing you at all.
Yeah,
doesn't
here I am
scare-
again.
There he is.
There he is.
So I see Christine is still muted.
So yeah, is it
I can unmute by hitting the space bar.
Okay.
Yeah, people should. Anybody who wants to be unmuted, I can unmute. I can't unmute all. Lewis says he can unmute all. So.
well, I have the button. I'm not sure it actually works.
So we're
Okay.
about.
But
Fine.
if someone has a question, what we could do is you could use the raise hand button under, I think it's under reactions, right?
Under
in Zoom here?
participants.
Under participants. if you
There's
go to
also
participants.
reaction. You can give a thumb up or something. We can
Yeah,
identify
any of
you
those,
as.
and we can find you and we can unmute you and you could ask a question here in the next couple minutes.
Okay, Peggy. Oh, if you unmute yourself, we can. There you go.
I was totally just saying thank you very much.
Well, thank you. This has been a fun thing to learn and to show to other people.
I want to say thank you also. Scott, you had contacted me about a year ago. I'm up in North Dakota.
Oh, you're my Dakota player.
Yes. And I want to say hello to Peggy, who in Michigan. I mean, she's over in Michigan and is a friend. So I loved your description. Thank you. I learned a lot. I mean, I know Dulcimer, but you had the best presentation I've ever
Hi,
heard.
Christine.
Well, thank you very much. I miss not having my annotation tools. That was kind of a surprise, but I hope we walked through the slides okay.
I found it wonderful, easy to follow, great diagrams. So thank you.
Good.
Hopefully I'll meet you at the festival someday.
Well, we look forward to that. Now, early on, Ken, I saw you raising your hand. Did you have a question? You're currently muted. Good. Well, Lewis, thank you so much, and folks, thank you for attending.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Scott. It was lovely.
Thanks.
I can't wait to see the next Dulcimer Festival.
Well, we'll see when that's going to be. We don't know right now.
True enough. True enough. All right.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, bye,
Nice
folks.
show.